Welcome to Sci-Fi Quantum Archives. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and explore. Cold air rolled down the ridge like breath from something ancient. Ice crusted the scaffold joints, clung to boots, lined the drill casing with a thin white shell that cracked faintly under motion. Far below, frost-stained soil resisted penetration, every centimeter gained by the geotechnical rig met with stiffness that wasn't quite stone. 2 weeks earlier, the ridge had groaned in its sleep. 3 microquakes, no epicenter, no fault activity, just shallow rumbles like a jaw grinding beneath the terrain. Nothing appeared on regional stress map. Power lines flickered in nearby outposts. No explanation found, only redacted mentions of buried test chambers long abandoned after the fusion trials failed. Records incomplete, facility tags wiped. Drill 4A was scheduled for a simple borehole. Nothing deep. Soil analysis, structural modeling. By dawn, sensors flagged inconsistencies in density. Localized spikes, oddly spherical zones of resistance. Operators paused the sequence, reviewed the feed, ran recalibrations. No change. A command came down to excavate manually. Gloved hands scraped away frostbitten loam, pressure-sensitive tools brushing past fractured shale. Light caught on something clean. Not stone. Not metal. Not ceramic. Surface gleamed with no visible texture. Seamless. No joins, no markings, no corrosion or wear. About the size of a small melon. Cool to the touch. Not cold like the earth. Cool in a way that ignored the environment. One technician ran a magnet across it. Nothing. Another scanned for isotopic decay. No signature. An infrared pass returned no heat profile. It wasn't insulating. It wasn't reacting. It simply was, sitting half-buried as if it had always been there, waiting. No records mentioned subsurface installations in that quadrant. No prototypes matched the alloy, assuming it even was one. A few whispered guesses circled. Experimental drone casing, munitions fragment, buried sensor node. None held weight. Logistics flagged it for secure transport. The object refused categorization. Later, as wind tore low across the ridge and shook the canvas over the northern bay, someone noticed the excavation logs had changed. Mass readings didn't match. Initial mass, 18.6 kilograms. Second entry, 32.4. Third entry, 12.1. All taken at the same time. No one had moved it. No one had even touched it again. Fluorescent strips hummed overhead, casting a pale wash across the containment chamber. Refrigerant coils exhaled behind the wall panels. No movement, only the hush of regulated air and the low static of telemetry feeds looping endlessly across monitors. The artifact sat under the sensor dome, centered on an insulated slab. No restraints, no cradle. Just placement. Position meant nothing to it. The first report came with certainty. Dense, perfectly spherical, high reflectivity. Weight approximated beyond tungsten. No deformation under probe pressure. Skin cooled on contact. Notes written with precision, language clinical, eyes still watching the object as though its contours might shift if not observed. Hours passed. A second report entered the system. Different observer, same object. Described as a 12-faced form with softened edges, faint luminescence around its base. Apparent temperature not only warmer, it radiated gently, like copper left near an old furnace. Internal structures hinted at angles impossible to align on paper. Material unknown, but somehow not metallic. Resistance to pressure matched Kevlar composite. An intern, late on her shift, stared at the object for too long. Log dimensions inconsistent with either report. Saw neither sphere nor polyhedron. Her hand trembled while she spoke into the recorder, words catching between breath. To her, the artifact stretched upward in tapered panes, glass-like, but pulsing gently under the lab lights. No heat but pressure. The kind that swells in cartilage behind the eye between ribs. Not pain. Not quite. Measurements ran concurrently. Infrared, ultraviolet, spectrometric, magnetic. all blank. When results overlapped with human input, contradictions multiplied. Surface tension logged as both pliant and immovable. Mass estimates ranged by entire orders of magnitude. Radiation detectors read nothing until a human entered the room, then spiked erratically with no pattern. Voices lowered unconsciously when speaking near it. Words bent around uncertainty. What was once analysis became description, and what was description soon wavered into speculation. The object refused singular definition. Not through action, but through observation. Not a trick of the eye. The machines, too, fractured in agreement. Data logs conflicted with themselves. Instruments aligned, recalibrated, reset. Outputs changed again. Nothing about the object had shifted position. Light touched it the same way each hour. The table held its weight, if weight was the word. A hand extended toward it paused, not from fear, but hesitation woven from something harder to name. No one argued, not directly. Reports weren't rejected. They accumulated, parallel truths bound by the same origin, none erasing the other. Each person saw, measured, described something real. Each knew what they witnessed. Each swore by it. Only the artifact remained unchanged. Or unchanging. Or both. Printouts stacked across the observation table, each one marked in red ink, each set of annotations looping back to the same impossibility. Shapes that should have been mutually exclusive, dimensions that violated symmetry, heat profiles that couldn't coexist. No one raised their voice. No one questioned what had been seen. Arguments didn't break the room, silence did. The idea came without anyone claiming ownership. If description altered interaction, then agreement might anchor the anomaly. A trial was proposed. Each observer would write down what they saw, seal the pages, and review them together. Not as challenge, but alignment. The room tensed beneath fluorescent light. Fingers stiff over pens, jaws locked. The artifact sat in full view, expressionless as ever. Sheets opened one by one. A sphere. A polyhedron. A prism. A tetrahelical twist. No two matched. Disagreement wasn't spoken. It settled between ribs, an invisible tightness that pulled thought backward. Still, someone reached across the table, suggested compromise. They'd focus on the most common attribute. Roundness, sheen, slight hum. An informal consensus formed, each participant nodding slowly, uneasily. The object in the room had no part in the agreement. Or perhaps too much. Sensors shuddered without movement. Light along the containment walls wavered, not flickering, but bending, as if direction itself reoriented. Edges of the artifact softened, not visually but perceptually, the way one recalls a face too often studied. The air near it thickened by degrees too slight to measure. Shadows pooled around its base, not from obstruction, but as if light refused to make a decision. A lab microphone hissed against the silence, audio stream splintering into soft distortions. Words spoken near the object grew brittle on playback. Syllables disjointed, cadence irregular. When scrubbed frame by frame, the footage showed moments where the artifact expanded by imperceptible margins, only to compress again when unobserved. The shape everyone agreed upon held briefly, just long enough to believe the theory had merit. Monitors aligned, mass readings synced, temperature held. For 31 seconds, the object behaved like something governed. No changes logged, no interference, no distortion. Then the door opened. A technician stepped in without prior exposure. Eyes caught the artifact, breath paused, posture shifted. That one look broke the balance. Description differed. Slightly. Enough. Everything that had settled began to drift. Audio warped again. Shapes pulsed across the surface. The once stable form wavered, not in motion, but in definition. Everyone present felt something unspoken retreat from cohesion. The air turned dry in the mouth, like concrete dust after collapse. Consensus fractured. Perception fragmented. The artifact sat unmoving. But no one could agree if it was the same one they'd seen moments earlier. New protocols arrived overnight, printed on heavy cardstock without signatures. Isolation chambers were assembled from sound-dampened steel, each lined with independent recording systems. No windows. No overlapping personnel. Each observer entered alone. Each received the same briefing. No interpretation, no conversation, no feedback. Observe. Describe. Exit. First subject recorded a thin obelisk tapering upward, surface brushed like old brass. Hands trembled slightly on the way out, not from fear, but restraint. No questions asked. Second saw a coiled structure, dark, ribbed, cool to the eye but hot to the skin. Description included scent, ozone, faintly sweet, like damp plastic scorched by sun. Nosebleed followed hours later. Third noted a sphere cracked through its center, filled with slow-moving liquid the color of deep wine. No crack visible in the chamber upon inspection. Nothing touched. Nothing moved. Measurements fluctuated with each trial. Gravitational drift recorded near the object during one session reached 0.08 G variance, isolated to a circle 1 meter wide. Radiation monitors lit during another reading, but only while viewed through polarized goggles. Sound recordings played back inconsistently, words slurred, timestamps reversed, frequency thresholds slipping out of human range. Thermal imaging revealed hot zones around the artifact in one session, cold zones in another. No environmental controls had shifted. No inputs altered. Objects placed nearby, metal rods, calibration weights, either gained or lost mass, depending on who had entered the room before. No one touched them. No one could explain the change. Instruments reset. Test repeated. Results reversed. Between each trial, the chamber remained empty. Cameras confirmed no movement. Pressure sensors held. Internal temperatures consistent. When the object sat unwatched, nothing changed. Not visibly. Not measurably. Machines showed no variance in its presence. Fields remained flat. Yet each time the door closed behind a new observer, the space adjusted. Not with force, not with noise. Quiet, dense changes that left aftertaste in the mouth and pressure behind the teeth. No alarms sounded. No damage logged. Only shifts, precise and personal, as if the object wasn't reacting to presence but rewriting its own context to suit perception. Consensus protocols were discarded. Each experience stood alone, unverifiable, incompatible. Scientists stopped comparing note. Not from instruction, but futility. What could be documented if observation changed the thing itself? What could be measured when measurement rewrote the room? No model explained the behaviors. No symmetry could hold. Nothing happened when it was alone. Only people brought change. Only eyes gave it rules to break. A name tag without a title pressed against the outer glass, sharp crease in the fabric just below the collar. No insignia, no rank, just posture too rigid to ignore. Orders were handed down without voice, passed through terminals in pre-cleared script. Single observer control. No deviations. The chamber was rebuilt with reinforced polymer walls, grounded flooring, no reflective surfaces. Observation would occur in isolation, no audio feed, no visual transmission, no third-party review. Subject: one physicist, senior clearance, history of psychometric calibration. Trusted to hold a thought without deviation. Instructions were exact. Enter. Observe. Do not describe aloud. Do not sketch. Fix an image in the mind, a clean, coherent shape, unchanging, stable, permanent. Hold it as truth. Project nothing. Let the shape be simple. No heartbeat monitors allowed. No biometric scans. Control was absolute. The physicist stood 1 meter from the artifact, unmoving. Light in the chamber dimmed by 30%, not manually, not centrally. Detection logs marked no signal sent. Material sensors began shifting before contact. Mass index rose by decimal places, barely noticed. Eyes locked. No speech. Just breathing through the nose, slow, regulated. Shoulders still. Knees stiff. The object compressed. Not visibly, digitally. Measurement fields recalculated mass at 24 kilograms, then 40. 60. Object did not expand. Object did not sink. Mass increased without displacement. Containment algorithms triggered partial lockdown. Floor restraints activated without manual command. 2 seconds later, chamber pressure destabilized. Not a breach, an absence. 1 square meter lost atmosphere in an instant, localized precisely where the artifact had sat. Alarms fired. Protocol froze. The technician monitoring air regulation collapsed backward without contact. Chest folded inward. No shrapnel, no wound. Blood pooled behind the eyes. Instruments nearby showed zero trauma. Air remained still across the room, motionless in every corner except one. Containment pod imploded from within. No combustion, no kinetic impact. External walls folded like softened tin, bending around a gravity well too small to sustain itself. Stabilization required depressurization of adjacent zones. The entire block dropped by 15 degrees. Surveillance failed. Power grid surged. Recovery team entered 9 minutes later. Chamber unrecognizable. No scorch marks. No smoke. Only pressure residues across concrete, fingerprints smeared into the wall paint by something not made of fingers. Artifact sat at the center of the wreckage. No longer spherical. No longer measurable. New orders arrived before anyone could speak. Session classified. Experiment labeled successful. No one volunteered for the next trial. Freight lifts descended past 6 sealed checkpoints before the vault came into view. Concrete swallowed signal strength by design. No wireless feeds. No external links. Every surface embedded with static shielding. Walls layered in staggered insulation thicker than the floors of most bunkers. No sounds moved beyond the second door. Inside, 40 seats faced one-way glass. No one touched the artifact. That privilege had expired. Exposure was optical only. 40 researchers placed in quadrants, each aligned to a separate data node, each instructed to record simultaneously, no speech, no facial cues, no shared body language. Every blink cataloged. Every breath timed. The object sat beneath the observation plane. Light dimmed evenly across its housing. No projections, no special lenses. Just raw line of sight. Cold reflection across the upper curve. No heat signature. No resonance. Instructions came in segments. Identify. Simplify. Agree. Teams reviewed each entry as one. Reports filtered through linguistic compression, boiled down to elemental descriptors. Shape, texture, scale, behavior. Agreement enforced not by consensus, but omission. What didn't match got erased. Only overlapping terms survived. When agreement peaked, something shifted below. Artifact stilled. No sensors triggered. No mechanical disturbance. Material hardened in place, surface smoothing into a near-symmetrical oblong. Tall, silent, opaque. Light bent around its edges but didn't refract. Center darkened. Corners rounded. The form held. No distortions followed. Air pressure remained within range. Gravity checked out. Instruments leveled. 5 minutes passed with no anomaly. 7. 10. Researchers exhaled in sequence, unaware. The new shape held position for the next 24 hours. Temperature dropped slightly near the base, enough to condense moisture on the underside of the glass. A faint sound bled through the wall, not audible by ear, but present on every channel. Not vibration. Not movement. A frequency impossible to transcribe. Reports followed. Descriptions logged independently. None matched. Team A noted a pillar of transparent resin, streaked with filaments like stretched quartz. Team B described an obsidian obelisk, hollow at its core. Team C insisted the structure was metallic, impossibly smooth, edges too perfect for casting. Others disagreed entirely, citing shimmered curvature, internal reflection, surface motion imperceptible but undeniable. All saw the same object. All viewed from the same window. No measurements aligned. Each recording contradicted the others not in content but context. Language betrayed itself under scrutiny. Words meant different things across tongues, even within the same team. One set of notes claimed it breathed. Not metaphor, not speculation. Lines on the page stated expansion, contraction, pulsing not in size but in awareness. When compared, no reports contained errors. No falsifications. No exaggerations. Only incompatible truths, stacked like translucent sheets over the same silhouette. Agreement had forced convergence. Observation had given shape. But shape, once made visible, refused to remain single. Access rotations were staggered by schedule, not rank. Each entrant cleared under the same protocol, scanned twice, logged by hand as well as system. No one entered without visual confirmation from two separate feeds. The vault's light never changed. No surfaces reflected. Every step echoed exactly once. 3 visits passed without note. On the 4th, the door remained open longer than usual. Not because of malfunction. Not because of hesitation. The figure inside simply didn't move. Initial description reported a crystalline column, flawless, light-bent edges soft enough to blur around the margins. Dimensions exact, recorded down to the decimal. No contact made. Just visual affirmation, followed by exit. Second subject followed 15 minutes later. Clearance identical, path identical, no communication permitted. Entered silently. Viewed silently. Recorded silently. Description logged as fractured stone block, matte finish, ridged across one face as if carved in haste. No shine. No luminescence. Weight guessed at 300 kilograms minimum. No visible resemblance to first report. Third subject had never seen the object before. Described a sphere floating 1 centimeter above its platform, pulsing faintly against the pressure sensor's tolerance limit. Cold air drew toward its center. Mouth dried instantly on approach. Fourth described a black plane stretched vertically, two-dimensional in appearance, impossible to measure in depth. Claimed the light behind it disappeared entirely when viewed head-on. Each report entered independently, time-stamped, archived. No errors detected in camera feeds. All movements matched expectation. No evidence of tampering. Only difference. The object never matched between views. Security flagged the anomaly after frame review. Slowed footage revealed inconsistencies not across time, but within the same second. Frame 117 showed one object. Frame 118 showed another. Frame 119 returned to the first. No transitions, no morphing. Hard cuts between realities. Footage scrubbed through 3 times, results identical. Yet no one inside noticed the changes. Review continued. One subject appeared twice, 2 days apart. Same clearance, same walk, same expression. Entered the vault without reaction. Remained for 1 minute. Logged observations both times, unaware of repetition. But the forms he described bore no connection. First, a metal spire. Second, a hollow sphere filled with moving symbols. Both descriptions provided with certainty, each supported by biometric calm. No hesitation. No doubt. When questioned, he recalled only one visit. Logs disagreed. Third-party systems noted identity match, biometric match, timestamp integrity. Only one person entered twice. Only one saw 2 forms. Only one failed to remember both. From that point forward, observers were no longer assigned shift. They were assigned variant. No one objected. No one noticed the change. Not directly. Reality held its shape. Just not the same one for everyone. 50 names cleared in a single bat. No staggered entry. No segmented review. Each subject hand-picked from previous sessions, selected for consistency, precision, lack of deviation. Transported under blackout conditions. No access to personal devices. No written material permitted inside. Uniforms stripped of identifiers. Skin contact limited. Eyes dilated to identical thresholds. The chamber had been widened, walls rebuilt with equal curvature, seating arranged in concentric arcs, each subject facing the object with no angular variance. White light distributed evenly through diffusers calibrated to remove shadow. Air temperature maintained within a half degree, no scent, no ambient sound, nothing left unbalanced. Pupillary alignment confirmed. All clocks synchronized to the millisecond. Mouths closed. No talking. Instructions simple. Observe. Hold the form. Do not conceptualize alternatives. Do not question the shape. Let the image be fixed. The object rose from its platform without mechanism. No external propulsion. It levitated at human eye level, surface reflecting no color, no environment. Not blank, not mirror, just wrong for the space. As if it didn't belong on any spectrum. Six-sided, smooth, edges beveled. Geometry that hurt to process for more than a second. But no one looked away. All sensors agreed. Magnetic resonance flatlined. Radiation within baseline. Pressure unchanged. For 6 hours the shape remained. Silence preserved through muscle strain and breath suppression. Not by fear. Not by force. By requirement. Agreement became the law of the room. Hour 7 began without transition. Artifact unchanged. Still floated. Still rotated once every 74 seconds, no deviation. Yet as notes resumed, one by one, scribbled in isolation, descriptions fell apart. Some reported a form with 9 faces. Others recorded a single curved band. A few drew coils. One drew nothing, just blankness, black ink pressed hard into the paper until the pen split. Memory audit commenced immediately. Subjects brought into separate rooms. Asked the same questions. Time of arrival. Shape of object. Length of exposure. Half provided answers that contradicted the clock. Some remembered entering 3 days earlier. Others remembered someone else being present, names never part of the cohort. A few described watching themselves enter. Not figuratively. Literally. They recalled standing behind glass, seeing their own backs pass through a door that was no longer visible. One described reaching for his own hand and feeling nothing. One cried when asked to explain why he could not recall blinking during the session. Cameras showed normal function. All 50 remained seated. No motion outside prescribed intervals. No contact made. No duplication visible. Yet when footage was played back for one subject, he asked why he was already seated before the door opened. Same timestamp. Same body. 2 versions of the same moment, one visible only to the person who claimed to have lived both. Reports halted. Not by command. By disuse. Language failed. Words bent under the weight of interpretation. What once was a shape became a question. What once was shared became private. Consensus had held. But something in the process had refused to leave untouched. Corridors curved where they had always been straight. Light fell against surfaces with angles that didn't match the blueprint. Shadows formed with no source. Door frames leaned inward slightly, enough to be noticed when passing through, enough to brush against the body in places that made no sense. Some reported a delay between step and sound, as if footsteps were no longer tied to motion. Most said nothing. Sensors built to measure gravitational flux began logging wave patterns without cause. Small, rhythmic compressions rippled through the floor tiles, never violent, never loud. Just enough to throw off the balance of pens on tables, water in glasses, equilibrium inside the ear. Compensation algorithms adjusted. They failed to hold calibration for more than 20 seconds. Clocks across different wings lost sync in increments too irregular to trace. One read 5 minutes slow. Another 32 ahead. Internal timers on video feeds looped backward. Personnel tracking grids failed to align between systems. A single hallway appeared to jump coordinates during a 4-minute window, displacing its endpoint by 6 meters, documented by GPS tags embedded in 2 lab carts that arrived at different destinations after following identical paths. Review of access logs raised further questions. Certain badge codes showed activity on dates that hadn't occurred. One researcher's ID entered a control room 3 times in the same hour, though that individual had been quarantined for medical observation across the compound. Security footage confirmed presence. Same face. Same walk. Same timestamp. When attempts were made to remove those entries, the system restored them without request. Attempts to flag them as errors were overwritten by the hour. Worse came in silence. Personnel files began thinning. Not removed, not corrupted, just incomplete. Entire employment histories reduced to partial fragments. Pages left blank. Rows misaligned. Faces remembered clearly in conversation no longer matched archived images. A technician whose voice had been heard the previous day could no longer be located by name, position, or biometric trace. When asked, multiple colleagues confirmed his presence. But not where he'd slept. Not what he wore. Not how he got in. One fragment of surveillance showed a meeting that no one recalled attending. Everyone present was accounted for. No one remembered sitting at that table. When shown the footage, participants grew quiet. Eyes followed themselves across the room without recognition. One man asked why his watch showed no face. Another asked why he never blinked. Down in sublevel 3, motion detectors tripped in empty rooms. The object, once sealed in Vault A, appeared in storage sectors where no access was granted. Readings suggested a duplicate presence, perfectly still, unmoving. Guards were dispatched. They reported no object. Video feed disagreed. The shape remained visible to cameras but invisible to the naked eye. When viewed through infrared, nothing registered at all. Reports mounted. Some counted 2 artifacts. Others logged 5. One file referenced 12, spread across separate containment cells. None matched in shape. No 2 observers agreed on location. Even the map began shifting. Section designations swapped, elevator panels mislabeled. An inquiry attempted to fix the record. It failed before the first meeting convened. By then, no one could confirm how many objects had ever been in the facility. Not because they didn't know. Because they no longer trusted the knowing. Final orders arrived without warning. Not printed. Not spoken. The directive appeared on every terminal within 6 seconds, identical phrasing, sealed authorization. No one issued it. No one signed. Access logs showed no origin. 0 human contact. Full isolation. Observation suspended indefinitely. Personnel were evacuated floor by floor. No voice raised. No alarms sounded. Just the quiet scrape of chairs against tile, the shuffle of boots on concrete, the soft rustle of paper as notes were left behind, never collected. No one touched the vault. No one asked to. Observation systems shut down in sequence. Cameras ceased transmission. Lenses clouded without condensation. Thermal imaging froze mid-frame, pixels locked into shapes that didn't match any known object. Microphones recorded bursts of silence too clean to be analog. Signal noise failed to appear. That failure, more than any absence, made technicians stop checking. Inside the chamber, no light remained. All bulbs disabled. Sensors retracted. Pressure valves sealed. No monitoring. No data collection. Nothing permitted to watch. Still, something moved. Tectonic drift readings, gathered from stations 3 kilometers out, began to pulse in intervals. Not tremors. Not seismic displacements. Local gravity compressed and relaxed in loops too precise for coincidence, too localized for natural fault behavior. Movement was charted to within centimeters. Origin traced to beneath the chamber. No physical shift occurred. The rock held firm. Only weight moved. Outside the sealed zone, magnetometers twitched at irregular hours. Oscilloscopes marked waves that folded back into themselves, leaving no aftertrace. Staff stopped marking them. Reports went unanswered. Lab doors were locked without keypads. Access by memory failed. Hallways shortened. At midnight, a corridor vanished from the blueprint. Geospatial alignment of the facility lost consistency. Maps printed the night before no longer aligned with boots on the floor. Stairwells ran longer than their measured length. One elevator opened to a blank wall, but only once. No one asked to confirm. The door was welded shut. The object, unseen, unmeasured, untouched, no longer existed in relation to anything outside. Yet gravity bent toward it. Space arranged itself fractionally closer. Not violently. Not rapidly. Just persistently. In absence of attention, it had not stilled. It had begun choosing what counted as space. Reality, for now, behaves. Thank you for watching and sticking with me to the end. Now, if you believe humanity deserves a future among the stars, do subscribe now. Only those who'd abandon Earth to its fate will scroll past.